We are the weirdos, mister.
Hi, hello, it's me, Audra, the Messiah of Nonsense, and your unlicensed therapist, but also a lover of dead television. And I also do political commentary on another channel, and that channel is called Girly Pop Politics. Subscribe if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want politics from a girly pop persuasion, then subscribe. That's it. That's all. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Ethan Klein, Sam Seder debacle. I'm going to call it a debacle. I haven't seen it. I have seen thumbnails about what went on with it. And that's been enough for me to say that it's probably a debacle. So we're going to go ahead and get started. It's a long podcast, but because they are kind enough to have timestamps, I will be able to slide into the timestamps and figure out where this actually begins.
Everybody, welcome to the show. Mr. Sam Seder.
Okay?
Oh my God, it's Sam Seder. What a nightmare.
Oh no, Sam Seder, what a fucking nightmare.
Sam Seder is a leftist. That's the extent of my knowledge of Sam Seder. Don't be mad at me. I have a full-time job. Thank you.
And Sam, since we ruined Stephen.
And Hassan Piker recommended that Ethan maybe speak with Sam since they are both Jewish, because very regularly Ethan would throw at Hassan that Hassan couldn't possibly know about XYZ because Hassan isn't Jewish. And so Hassan was like, well, Sam is. And he wasn't just like trying to throw out like the approved Jew as Ethan regularly referred to Sam as. It was because Hassan actually has a friendly relationship with Sam. So that was why he made that recommendation. I could not imagine Ethan being my employer. I would cry.
Crowder's life.
Oh, wait. Let me also move this speed up because, babes, I have things to do.
Together. Nice to see you
I've
again.
been feeling very badly for him.
Yes,
over
we're
the years.
all. It's a tragic loss of a great career and so much potential.
Yes, it is. Hey, are we live now?
We are live on the H3 channel, yes.
I want to just start by sort of apologizing in that I sent you a DM on Twitter 6 months ago or something. I was just going through to find out, and then I just realized you're no longer on Twitter.
Yeah.
So that explains why I didn't hear back.
He may no. Yeah, I didn't see it. I wish I would have, but honestly, I don't know what to do because like I want to get off Twitter, but also it's kind of a pain because Twitter is the way that like I would reach out and speak to most people, but I also don't want to be on a platform that's like owned and perpetuates basically like Nazi shit. So
yeah, this was
That's one of the best things that Ethan has said in a really long time, and I do applaud him for that. I am also not on Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky. I don't check my Blue Sky all that often. As a matter of fact, kind of when TikTok went down, I've like scaled back on the amount of time I spend on these sites because I think that it's not good for my spirit. As soon as it got bought by Elon Musk, it got worse and worse and worse and worse. And so I don't mess with Twitter like that.
yes, I understand that.
Yeah,
but I just wanted you to know I did reach out, and it was on me not to realize that. I just assumed he didn't want to respond, but
okay, well, that's nice to know that you reached out. I appreciate that. And the reason, I mean, obviously, people have been pushing for this conversation. I don't know if you know like the whole lore of it, or the background of it.
I don't. I mean, this is all I know is that Hassan reached out to me sometime. I mean, I got in touch with you October 24th, and I said that I was meaning to reach out for a couple of weeks. So I assume it was sometime in early October. And I thought we were just going to do this off air. But my understanding is that you and he were getting into it, and you felt like because he wasn't Jewish, he didn't have a perspective on this, and that's why he suggested that you speak.
Look at that, y'all. I was able to succinctly put that together. I'm so proud of myself. I would like a round of applause.
Speak to me. I don't speak for all Jews, just to be clear.
Right.
I speak only for myself as a in any form.
Well,
whatsoever.
Sam, allow me to speak for all Jews, if I may, today.
Please.
No, actually, I mean, that's a total mischaracterization, which is kind of my problem with Hassan, which we can get into if you want. We don't even have to talk about Hassan. But basically what I told him.
I'm sorry, I'm screaming. He's like, we don't even have to talk about Hassan. But like, you want to talk about Hassan so bad. Like, I can already feel that he really wants Sam to like be on his side. So we will, if we can, if I have the capacity, and y'all in chat as well, help with the fact checking so that we can keep this kind of on the rails, because y'all know I'm always off the rails. I just be doing too much.
Told him was that I was citing polling data that shows that about 70 to 80% of diaspora Jews have some kind of positive feelings towards the state of Israel. And he was disagreeing with me. And I mean, this is available by polls, readily available by Pew Research just last month, showing that. And I don't know if if you agree with that or not. I can pull it up, but 72% of diaspora Jews have some type of at least positive feelings about the state of Israel. I was stating that fact to him, and he was saying that I was wrong. And I said, "Who are you to talk about this?" I did not say that I only listen to Jewish people, which is a little bit of presumptuous and a little insane.
I don't think that's not what I took him to say. But yeah, I mean, as long as that's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I haven't seen that poll. I've seen ones that have said that they have a connection. They feel a connection, either strong or somewhat, which is different than positive per se. So, regardless, I mean, I think if I don't know your upbringing at all, but I mean, certainly my upbringing, my Hebrew education was, I would say, 1/3 Holocaust, and I'm older, and so this was in the 70s, 1/3 into the 80s, 1/3 Holocaust, 1/3 Israel, 1/3 Hebrew, Hebrew and Jewish culture, and I certainly feel a strong connection to Israel, but I wouldn't call it positive these days.
Sure. I think what the poll attempts to is basically, if you ask Hassan or a lot of people on the left, I think an emotional attachment is the way to describe this. So it's like if you think
I certainly have an emotional attachment, and it's not, but it's not.
And I'm just gonna say this. Here's the thing: I don't begrudge an emotional connection to things. Like I've said multiple times, the same way people have emotional connections to Harry Potter, Disney upbringing, all these kinds of things, right? Musicians, artists, things like this. And then you find out that they're terrible. I don't begrudge anybody that. Like, I think you're still allowed to have that, but you also have to look past that part of it and see the reality, right? So you can have your emotional connection to the Harry Potter movies or whatever, especially if you have them, you can just watch them. But I do think that there is something to be said for you regularly supporting that awful woman whose name I don't even want to say because that's not even her name. Isn't it Joanne? I feel like we should all just dead name her. It's like her and Twitter. The thing is, you do have to wake up and look past it, right? Like at some point you have to recognize that you have this emotional connection to something and, not be mad that you have that. That's okay. But also go yeah, but she's awful. And I don't want to do anything to financially support her. And I have to recognize that the things that she's doing and saying, I can't let my nostalgia override what an awful, horrible woman she is. What a transphobic, ginormous piece of human excrement that J.K. Rowling is. And I feel like you have to get that way with everything that's happening in Israel. You can't support a genocide. You just can't do that. We're watching one state try to eradicate an entire populace, an entire people, and they're doing it with impunity. So this isn't about whether or not you like your home or your homeland. This is about the fact that you cannot stand by an entire group of people being brutally and ruthlessly eradicated.
This isn't the one, is it, Dan? There's the one that shows 73% of diaspora Jews. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, regardless. Basically, I want to flesh out my ideas, my thoughts, because I'm being characterized by Hassan and a lot of his cohorts as being, a Zionist, being pro-Israel, being a Israel apologist, being a genocide supporter, being a baby killer, being married to a baby killer, et cetera, right? My wife is Israeli. I don't know if you know that. So basically, I would like to just take the opportunity.
Not just Israeli. She was is the IDF. She was in that. She's not just Israeli.
Explain my ideas, what I think about Israel, and you can tell me what.
And just a side note, I understand that he is, in fact, in an impossible position, having a wife who is Israeli and strongly tied to Israel the way that she is. Like I said before, if he wanted to just say, listen, I don't agree with these things, but this is my wife. And I think everyone would have just been okay, got it. And he could have just gone on and done what the goofs and gaffs instead of this year-long attack and attacking not only Hassan, but anyone who associates with him. I'm not associated with Hassan. Hassan does not know who I am. Thank you. People can understand that you might have a conflicting interest that you absolutely cannot cross. It's a boundary you can't cross. You are married, you have children. And I think most people, not everyone, but I think most people would understand that and just be okay, we'll not argue with you on this. This isn't something we should talk about because of your closeness to it. You're so close to it, we can't actually have these conversations, and it doesn't make sense for us to do that to you. Nobody wants you to have to choose between your wife and well, anything, to be honest. I know that's a soft thing to say, but it's also true. Like,
what you think, because apparently I will only listen to other Jewish people. So finally, I can speak to someone whose opinion matters to me. So thank you, as the official sanctioned Jewish man, Sam Seder, everybody. 100% Ashkenazi. You ever taken one of those?
I haven't, but I'm quite sure I have some Sephardic
I
Jew.
really hate that he keeps doing that and being like he's the official sanctioned Jew, and it's like no.
Jewish ancestry too, so I would mix.
That's good.
Vilnius and Hungary, I think.
Good for you. I think that's always a good thing. Hey, my friend, I'm 99.3%, so that's my.
All right,
that's,
well,
that's where my authority comes from.
I'll take your word for it.
So at any rate, let me start here by showing you a little context.
Oh, let me also just say I got about an hour.
Okay, great. Well, I'll just get into it then. Oh, here it is. Not that it matters, but okay, whatever. So let's start here. Let's start with a little icebreaker here. I know we're both fans of Tim Pool. Okay, let's just enjoy this image together. Tim Pool recently had a wedding, and can you see that?
Did he get married?
Well, I think he's attending a wedding.
Okay.
And he's very formally dressed, except he appears to be wearing a beanie.
I'm aware of his beanie attachment.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought this was a fine look for our good friend Tim Pool there. Very good.
Nice suit.
Yeah. So well, let me ask you this: what have you kind of like heard about me? Because I mean, I know that your colleagues have an opinion.
I gotta be honest with you.
I genuinely don't know why he didn't just go, because this is me. If you want to argue a point with me and you want to have a conversation, I don't know why I wouldn't just state how I feel about something, right? Like I would just be like, so the thing is, I don't believe in genocide, but I feel this way about blah, blah, blah. If I was Ethan, right? I don't want to do this whole thing. Like, what have you heard about me? What rumors have you heard? What have people been saying about me? Because like, that doesn't actually help get to the problem at hand. We're going to see what Sam says about what he's heard about Ethan.
I have not heard much. I have like, the only thing I really saw that came up in any of my mentions on Blue Sky, I'm also on Blue Sky, is just this issue about talking to me, and I had presumed that was it, but I don't, look, from my perspective, I'm not.
He's literally over here like, I'm a grown ass man. I don't be listening to all this damn gossip. It's like I do my showy show. I do all of the outreach programs and all the shit that I do outside of this. And then like, I just do grown man shit. Like I'm not on the internet finding things to irritate and upset me. That's not what I do. Like I'm a grown ass man.
That there's been a lot of grief that you've taken. And I know that other people have also taken grief on all sides of this. And, the personal aspects of this, and I don't believe that people. I don't actively attempt to deplatform people. I don't think people should do that. I don't think people should be swatted or try to be fired or whatever.
100%. Listen, I have this thing about people trying to deplatform people, even awful people, because I look at it from the perspective of if we start going down that road on these types of platforms, what we end up with. Obviously, if you break TOS, that's a completely different story. But like actively trying to deplatform people just because you don't like them or you don't like their views, I don't think that that's a good idea, because again, once we start going down this road, anybody at any point in time can experience I'm just going to call them hate raids, and have their platform taken from them. And I don't agree with going down that road. I also think that people can change. Like, I think that sometimes people do look within and change. We saw this happen with Ian, and he is someone who I look at who is like actively working to change. And it's something that I do pay attention to with content creators who say that they're going to change something. And the reason I pay attention to it is very specifically because of the fact that a lot of people say they're going to change, but they don't actually change. They say they're sorry. They don't actually do anything that shows that they've done anything different. If you go look at Ian's content right now, you will see that he has been actively doing things to change how he behaves online, what his online presence is, what his online legacy will be. And that is how I determine if somebody is trying to do things. So I think if you deplatform somebody, they don't even have the opportunity to try to change. Do I have to watch all of them? No, but I don't think we go down a road where we're just like actively deplatforming people.
Or have CPS sicked on them or any of that. I mean, I just don't think that's appropriate. I mean, I'm more interested in talking about my relationship to Zionism and my perspective on what Israel is doing and what is happening in Gaza. And
so I totally agree. Let's just talk about the facts. Let me start by showing you this clip. So I've been actually talking about my feelings on the Israel-Gaza Palestinian dispute situation for a long time. I lived in Israel for 5 years as well when I was with my wife early on. Here's my position right after October 7th, and you can tell me if you have any if you have any comments on any of my positions here. But this was posted on, this was from our episode a few days after October 7th. Yeah. Liars and bad faith weirdos. So here's what I'll say about Israel, okay? Listen, since the first time I've said it, and I'll say it many more times, the cabinet is run by genocidal maniacs, okay? They're led by Netanyahu, who should resign in disgrace and go to prison for being a war criminal, okay? He's made a coalition of the most radically conservative freaks that don't represent, by the way, the majority of Israelis. And they're hell-bent on genocide, frankly, overtly. They've committed tons of war crimes in Gaza, including the killing of children, obviously, because Gaza is one of the most densely populated places in the world. 50% of the residents are under 18, so when you bomb a building, the chances that you're killing children is pretty much 100%, okay? It's fucking barbaric, it's unacceptable, it's disgusting. I've seen videos, you know, I saw videos of Palestinian dads holding his dead 5-year-old daughter. I mean, I don't need to watch this part because it just gets a little too emotional. But I mean, so that was my take right after October 7th. And obviously that was coming off the end of me being I'm an Israeli citizen. The morning of October 7th, me and my wife were up at 3 a.m. as families were calling into news stations from their safe houses, people being burned alive with their families being murdered while on the phone with news. So coming off of that emotional shock, right, was this was my reaction. Now,
so what changed? That's the thing, is that's where everybody's confused. It's so what changed? How did we get from you having that opinion to where we are now? That's the thing. If he tries to claim in this interview that it's still his stance, I will have a problem because it has changed. That's the thing. That's the issue that we're having right now, is it's okay, bro, but your original stance was the right one. We're all confused where it went wrong. How did we get here where you're yelling like an old man at the clouds to all the sycophants of yours that will listen that you're right when you've so obviously changed that stance?
I don't know if there's something Zionist or pro-Israel I said there, but maybe I don't understand.
I mean, I think much of what you said was true. I'm not sure, frankly, if what we've seen Israel do in terms of Gaza is not broadly supported in Israel. I'm not seeing the body politic. I mean, I was doing a lot of interviews with Israeli reporters earlier in 2023 about the protests against what Netanyahu was doing with the judiciary. And there was a question as to whether Israelis would see that this autocracy that Netanyahu was attempting to sort of impose on the country wasn't an extension of what was happening in places like the West Bank and in Gaza in some fashion, and more so the West Bank at that time. And so I think it's hard to make an argument. And look, I would make it's not a perfect analogy as to what's happening in this country, but when you talk about the Israeli population not having a problem with what's going on in Gaza, I don't see a lot of evidence of that. There's certainly, I would imagine, a percentage of Israelis, and I know some of them who think that Israel should stop its assault there. But I don't think I don't see a lot of evidence that a year and a half later, after you said those things, that this is not the character of the vast majority of Israeli society. I mean,
exactly.
I'm not necessarily convinced that they are as aware. I mean, I've talked to people who have.
And I'm going to just bring this up to you right quick because I don't know if some of you have seen it, but Noah Samson had a really good video about this. It's the one that Ethan is actually suing him over.
In Gaza. The force in question there being, genocide. They wanted more. It wasn't enough, apparently. 17 months later, and nothing has really changed. Just weeks ago, polling indicated that the Trump administration's plan to facilitate the ethnic cleansing of Gazans was supported by over 80% of Israelis. This headline refers to Israelis as a whole, but that 80% support statistic is actually only the perspective of Jewish Israelis. A majority of Palestinians with Israeli citizenship, or Arab Israelis, as the Israeli government tries to call them, considers this ethnic cleansing plan to be immoral. When it comes to Jewish Israelis, however, that number drops to just 3%. This should come as no surprise given Israel's history. A country that exists on the logic of ethnic supremacy and colonization requires a certain level of dehumanization to keep its inhabitants from collapsing under the weight of the reality of their rotten society. Another way to get a handle on the seemingly ubiquitous genocidal fervor among Israelis is by just talking to them.
How many civilians have been killed in Gaza, from what you know?
Who gives a shit?
Okay, but don't you feel like, for example, children?
Children grow up to be Arabs. I read the numbers last week. My memory died and went to heaven. I don't think children should suffer, but there are always casualties. And since they do a lot of pruervu, that is the natural result.
חפים מפשע נהרגו בעזה.
טוב, אז כנראה שנעצור.
את לא רוצה לענות על זה?
תודה.
אוקיי, אפשר לשאול למה?
כי אני לא חושבת שיש מישהו שהוא חף פשע שם. צר לי.
אבל ילדים אבל, נגיד.
הילדים מסכנים, אין ספק, אבל הם לא יגדלו להיות ילדים חפים מפשע, לצערי.
Most of the kids there that are getting killed, I never support little children dying, you know? I never want it.
However,
But most of them will grow up not only supporting Hamas, which is a crime by itself, but joining them, which is the worst of the worst.
בפשע נהרגו בעזה.
לא, זה גם לא מעניין אותי.
לא? למה?
לא מעניין אותי. אני הייתי עד 7 באוקטובר האמנתי בשלום ובשיח ובדו-שיח. אחרי זה הבנתי שאין עם מי לדבר. כולם שם מחבלים. לצערי הרב.
אבל ילדים, כאילו.
לא, אני אומרת בכנות, לא מעניין אותי.
There is no such thing as Palestinians. They're Arabs who have many countries to flee to and nobody wants them to. But if we do call them Palestinians, their parents use them as human shields to gain sympathy. The natural instinct of a Jewish mother is to protect her child. Palestinian women do not have that.
These people know that they're on camera and that these remarks will be posted on the internet or shared on the mainstream news. This is normal to them. This is normal in their society.
and that's what I wanted to bring up. When we're talking about this, and I know that was like very harsh and awful, and I'm sorry that I had to subject y'all to that, but like, this is what we are up against. This is what we are up against. A large population of people who have dehumanized another population of people to the point that they don't care. They don't want to talk about it. They don't give a damn. They don't want to think about it. And even if they know that it's children, they will find a way to like make these children evil so that they don't have to feel bad that children are being killed in this. Like that's where we are right now. And this is what we're seeing. So back into the Sam Seder part.
Reported in the West Bank, and they said they would go from the West Bank into Israel, and the lack of awareness of what was happening in the West Bank by Israelis was shocking to them. So, you know, I can't say if the Israeli population had a full understanding of what was happening in Gaza that they wouldn't change their mind, but I don't see a lot of evidence of it.
So, as you touched on, this was made basically before the war started. And I think that the unfortunate, really tragic outcome of the war is how much it's jaded and radicalized, I think, people in Israel. It's really, you know, I think people in Israel feel like isolated. They feel like, I mean, the sentiment in Israel is basically that the world wants, you know, the country to disappear. And and obviously, like, that's a much more nuanced conversation. But the feeling there has definitely radicalized a lot since the war started. It's gotten a lot worse.
And I think, I think that gets to it to some extent. I mean, you have this wholesale slaughter. You know, I was looking up, we killed in Iraq, you know, depending on what numbers you want to look at, but, you know, I think it's safe to say directly hundreds of thousands of people. But even like the number of children that we killed in Iraq, I think has been surpassed by what's happened in Gaza. And I think one of the things that I find shocking is that the sense, and look, I experienced this with family members, where the sense that, you know, there's a victimization, for instance, let's say on college campus of Jewish students. And I think that to look at what's going on, the totality of what's going on, and to perceive the victims of what's happening here to be the Israeli citizenry or you know, Jews in this country, I think it just blows my mind. I mean,
well, two people can care about two things at once. Why should people?
Oh, absolutely.
People,
no, absolutely.
People
I agree,
who are uninvolved in the war, if they're being like victimized in a separate situation because of their Jewish identity, that's
So Sam's not allowed to finish his point. Got it. Because I do feel like Ethan is rushing to stop Stop Sam from disagreeing with him.
That's a problem, don't you think?
Oh, I do, but
And
I
you can
think
care
that,
about two things. You can't be like, oh, these people are ridiculous for caring about anti-Semitism on college campuses because the war's happening. I mean, both we can care about two things.
100%.
And obviously one is way worse, right? One is way worse.
But that's the point. I mean, one is way worse. And what's happening in
But
Gaza?
who should tolerate being discriminated against based on their identity? You know what I mean? Like, of course,
Well,
who wouldn't react to that?
I don't think that people are. I don't think that people are being victimized. I mean, certainly, listen, anti-Semitism is real. It was real when I was a kid. There was many times I had pennies thrown at me growing up, and
there's a lot of anti-Semitism in the Black community. You see it quite regularly. This is something that, especially not growing up in the U.S., I had to look into to kind of understand, because I didn't grow up here. I didn't spend my formative years here, and obviously, the U.S. education system in the U.S. it's not good, especially when it comes to teaching us about the war crimes that the U.S. has committed against other countries. But I will say this, and I'm not minimizing it, please don't take it that way. I do think that one of the problems of being an American and living here is there is a helplessness to what happens in the world. And the American people as a whole tend to just target whom they can actually get a hold of, because we can't do anything. We are over here, and everything is always happening over there, if that makes sense. It's happening over there. So there's nothing that the people can do. And there's a thing about feeling helpless that causes people to do some wild shit that they probably in their normal everyday lives wouldn't do. So I do think that, yes, anti-Semitism is growing. It still doesn't excuse backing a genocide. It doesn't excuse that. Thank you.
Playing basketball. I mean, there was a lot of, I've experienced anti-Semitism, but, I've been putting it in the context of you're a parent, I'm a parent. If my kid is going through something very difficult, it's obviously difficult for me, but it's more difficult for them. And it's a question of prioritizing these things. You can have two thoughts in your head at the same time, but to center oneself or to perceive that one's victimization is sufficient to ignor the
I gotta stop you because I don't know who's doing that.
It's you. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh, apologies. I had a bit of a fit. I feel like we all just collectively yelled at the screen like, it's you. That's been the issue. And that's what so many people have been trying to get him to understand. You have made the absolute crushing destruction of the Palestinian people by the Israeli government, and by extension, a large majority of Israeli people, about you and your feelings. That's what's happened. You have turned this into everybody's being mad at me. And if you're truly pro-Palestine, then you have to take yourself out of it. In my case, is one of the reasons I very rarely speak about it, because I don't want it to become me crying and being upset or anything like that, Selena Gomez, because I'm helpless to do anything about it. Yes, I can donate, I can do these things, but realistically, what I can actually do, what I can actually see helping, I don't have near as much power and control in that regard. And so I don't want to turn it into a thing where I'm just constantly sobbing and having this weird thing being like, oh my God, I just can't believe this is happening. Ugh. I will say that, we're going to look back on this moment. We're going to look back on this as a people and be wholly ashamed, as we regularly do in America, of how our government does things. We're regularly having to see this. And then they're just going to do the same thing that they always do, which is just sweep a little rug over it and maybe give it a holiday that people get off of work and then pretend they didn't do that. And then that's why this country will not move forward and progress. So for Ethan, the issue has been that not only are you on the wrong side of history, but you are also making this completely and totally about you and your feelings, and your attacks on everyone who doesn't agree with you is wild. Just be pro-Palestinian, be pro-Palestine, and not have it be about you and your feelings, because that's where it is.
Presented as the Israeli population feels like they're isolated and this and that.
There's two different separate conversations. There's the American Jewry who's I have nothing to do with that place, and then the Israelis, right? So when you're talking about
in terms of the way that you characterize the Israeli feeling, was that they feel isolated, et cetera, and I can understand that, but to not have the first thought of we are committing, like you say, genocidal acts, and if people want to call it genocide, I don't, obviously it's got to be, it's a legal term, but I think that it's, colloquially speaking, at the very least, it is a genocide. And
Correct.
to not recognize that as the fundamental issue, the first issue, I think is blinkered. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it's a little gobsmacking to me.
Well, so I do agree with you that obviously in Israel, people, I think the problem, and just to say on a higher level, I agree with you. Like obviously the people in Israel compared to like what's on October 7th, they were victims. After everything that's happened, obviously whatever they've suffered pales in comparison to the mass destruction and like wanton death of civilians in Gaza and what's happening in the West Bank too, lots of awful stuff. That being said, I think the problem with Israel, just to try to explain what's happening there, because I do agree with you, is just like the media apparatus and the feeling that they have there. It's like there's not a lot of space emotionally and like even the information that they're consuming, I think, that would allow them to have that kind of like self-realization. And like you said, a lot of Israel.
I would actually beg to differ because it exists. They're not looking for it. Again, I'm going to refer you back to Noah's video. They know they do not care. They know they do not care. That is a difference. To see multiple people not give a shit that children are being murdered and just be like, oh, I mean, I don't want to see kids die, but they're going to grow up bad, so who cares?
Israelis don't know what's happening
There are some. I mean, you know,
some, yeah, of course there's some.
Haaretz, you know, what was it in the fall? You had the publisher of Haaretz, you know, speaking out about what was going on there, and the paper was essentially, you know, a cutout, or there was an attempt by the government to basically shut them down on to some extent. I mean, so.
Well, so what's your
yes,
explanation why Israelis don't care? It's not that they're evil, right?
Well, I think, look, there's, I'm sure that there is a
objection leading the witness. Did y'all see that? Listen. I also watch a lot of Law TV. I don't fuck with Emily D. Baker because I don't fuck with racist white women. But I do watch a lot of Law TV. Raw. Next question.
A mass, you know, sort of like a failure to deal with trauma. I think some of it is, frankly, a racism. I think, you know, how can you explain, you know, how can I explain how I just watched a clip of people at a Trump rally chanting USA, USA, to watching a video of people being, you know, taken into that prison in El Salvador and having their heads I mean, I don't know how I can explain that. So I don't know how I could explain how the Israelis are able to the extent that they can see what's going on in Gaza, have that reaction. But I know that it's wrong. And I think, you know, some of it undoubtedly is a racism. Some of it is, you know, maybe some type of mass failure to deal with trauma. I mean, I don't know all those. I think, you know, part of it, I think there's some of the makeup of, you know, immigrants to Israel over the past several decades. I'm sure all of that enters into it, and I'm not in a position to sort of like be able to psychoanalyze it beyond the sort of.
I mean, I would look at it as it's no different than the indoctrination that Americans receive all the time that got truly unraveled with TikTok. You can argue me down on this, but like I think that I already knew it wasn't great here. I think a lot of people knew that somewhere deep in their souls. They're like, it's not great. But there's a lot of American indoctrination. It's in our movies, it's in our TV shows, and we experience it. And most countries do this. It's not just America. I'm saying it as an American living in America who grew up, spent my formative years in Okinawa, Japan. We're indoctrinated very heavily. What we're doing in other countries, the freedoms that are getting protected here, all of these things, we are indoctrinated and fed this information over and over and over again. We stand up and we do the Pledge of Allegiance in school, like all of these things. USA great, USA great. In every movie that we watch, multiple movies where the Americans have come to save the day, we're indoctrinated with this all the time. And then it was blown apart for a lot of Americans with TikTok because people started to see all of these other countries and how they were living. People started to see Africa for real. And this has been something that has generally been hidden from Black people for a long time because the messaging we get here are the multiple commercials of starving children in Africa. And my conspiracy theory is always going to be the same, that we were fed that information, and it started very much right around when Black people started really dealing with Black nationalism and wanting to go back into Africa. This started happening in the 90s. And I know it was like the 70s stuff, but I'm talking about like people really, really wearing the dashikis for real. Like everything was getting real, like, let's go back to the motherland. That's when I was aware of it. And then we started to see all of these commercials about like how terrible Africa is. And, you know, they only have like a pittance of water, a raindrop of water per week. we weren't shown beautiful Africa. We weren't shown all of this, and it was on purpose, right? Because what happens if we all decided, like, yeah, let's go back to the motherland? If a majority of Black people are like, we're going back to the motherland, you lose a populace of people that you get to have other white people look down on and be able to blame the problems of America on. If we're basically non-existent and we're all like going over there and being like, ooh, yeah, it's really great here. Move your family here. Like, let's all go back. Let's like migrate purposefully, right? A purposeful well thought out, like go back to Africa, and then be able to tell other Black people like, it's fantastic here. Let's move, which some people would say it's another form of colonization. I'm not getting into that today. That's not my ministry, but like we would leave, right? And then who would you blame all these bad things on? You know, because eventually the thing that I'm very regularly trying to get a lot of white people to understand is like, if there was a world where we're all gone, eventually it's just going to be y'all. And that you think it's going to be great, but what you're missing is those rich people still fucking hate you. They hate you. They despise you. They wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. They wouldn't deign to throw a penny in your direction, a literal penny. This is why we're having this whole FAFO conversation regarding Trump and all of that, and why people don't have near as much empathy as they previously would have tried to have for y'all. Because now that it's actually starting to impact you, y'all just turning around acting like, what the hell is going on? So y'all have to really start considering what's going to happen if all of the people that y'all don't like are just booted out of the country. It will just be you here, and they hate you. It's not going to be some magical utopia. That's not how it's going to work, because rich people are going to stay rich. They want to stay rich, and they will do any and everything that they can to do that. That's the thing. If you want to know why Israel, like, that's probably a big part of it. It's the indoctrination that they are fed all the time. I call it a pecking order. Eventually it gets to you. Exactly, Wonderland. Like that's how it works. You're not just going to suddenly be spared.
You know, vague notions,
Sure.
but
Yeah, and I
from
agree,
my perspective, it's gobsmacking. And, you know, to me, it has shown, and, you know, I never identified myself as a Zionist as a kid or, you know, through the years, and I never identified myself as an anti-Zionist. I don't think you know, I think it wasn't really until someone heard me articulate my perspective on this that they referred to me as anti-Zionist. And I have, you know, I don't really care one way or another how I'm labeled. But to me, it shows a failure of that system of government that Israel has. And it has failed both from a perspective of, you know, what I think some people had as a notion of Zionism in the 19th century. It has been a failure in terms of keeping Jews safe, frankly. It seems to me to have been a massive failure. And so I can't operate as someone who lives in Israel, but I can operate as someone who is an American in terms of like what we support, which is why I think we should end all aid. And as a Jew who sees my religion being used as what I perceive as a fig leaf for what Israelis or, you know, Zionists are doing. And so, I mean, that's where I'm coming from with this, that I don't know if there is a psychological state that can justify this. In fact, I don't think there is. And so, you know,
it's just an attempt to understand, not justify. Because I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, it is the way that it is, and so that's for a reason. And it's just trying to explain it. That's all. I agree with everything you're saying. But actually, one thing I want to pivot to and ask you about.
Do you think that we should cut all aid to Israel?
I think that'd be justifiable. Yeah.
And
when we're talking about like military and stuff, yeah, for sure. Israel can make their own bombs and shit.
Every
if they need, like, they don't need American military. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I think they do need it to do what they're doing, without a doubt. And
well, what I mean is they're not entitled to it, to say more accurately. Yeah. So yeah, I think military aid should be cut for sure until.
As a Jew, and you know, I mean, obviously you have a different connection to Israel than I do, as you know, through your family and whatnot, and through having lived there. But as a Jew, I take such offense to what is being done ostensibly to protect me and my family and my ancestors and my progeny and all of it. It is, I mean, I think it's, I think the conflation of Zionism and Judaism is both not keeping Jews safe and is wrong at its core. And we can see what it's even doing in the context of this country, the way that it's enabled Trump and to attack universities and to attack law firms and whatever. And so I don't know. And if you agree with that, great. If not, I'm happy to discuss it with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. And part of the reason why, like, this chasm started between me and, you know, Hassan is very influential. So when he decides that somebody is an enemy of the movement for criticizing him, which is what I perceive happened, then it kind of becomes reality. For example, one of my criticisms of his him not supporting Kamala Harris. Now, would she have stopped the war and been like a perfect...
Someone call my mom. I don't love the implication that people don't have their own minds, right? There are things I agree with Hassan on, quite a few of them. Then there are other things where I'm like, I don't really like that. That's fine. I think leftists, my opinion, my household, we should be allowed to disagree, because I think not being allowed to disagree is how we get here. I think that him pointing out, if he's going to bring up the whole Harris situation, I think him pointing out that her stance on Israel was the same, the status quo, wasn't him not supporting her. The way that liberals don't understand that, like, leftists, we're just stuck having to vote for these people, whether we like them or not, because our alternative was what we have right now, which is just fucking anarchy. Like, that is what we have right now. This is anarchy. And I keep saying it. I'm not going to stop saying it. For people who are like, anarchy, this is anarchy. And I don't want to live in anarchy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm on record as saying, if there was a zombie apocalypse, take me out. I don't want to stay here for that. I don't want to be here without running water. I don't want to be here without toilet paper. I don't want to be here without my safe foods. Let me go. Right? Like, this right here is anarchy, and it's already heading in the bad direction. Like, we are in the midst, sunk deep into fascism as we speak right now. Part of being a leftist is, like, actually giving people information. Like, I also don't agree, vote blue no matter who. I don't like that, because you also have to pay attention to the people who are quote unquote Democrats. Bill Maher. Dennis Miller. Who then grift and drift over where they need to drift over. The right is where all the money is. We know this. I'm not saying that Democrats don't have money, because they do have money. Nancy Pelosi is rich as fuck, and we know how she's got that money. We should be allowed to criticize our side. That's the difference between being a leftist and being a Trumplican, is that you should criticize and you should push for them to be better. You should not push for them to be weirdo autocrats that are just trying to send people who disagree with him off to some random country where there's no way back without due process. Do you see? That's part of being a leftist, is that we should be allowed to criticize and push our leaders to be better. We should be allowed to tell them, like, hey, we don't like that you take this money. Him saying and pointing out these things didn't just suddenly make everybody not vote for her. Like, that's not what happened. It was a lot of young men and Latino voters who moved over to Trump's side, and it was a large amount of young men who stayed the fuck home. They were just ambivalent about the whole thing. Now we're here. It wasn't Hassan disagreeing. Also, I would like to say that whether or not Hassan approves of someone doesn't, like, magically make them good or bad.
I don't know, but I know she would have been better than Trump. I know that for sure. Trump's posting like this insane Riviera, Gaza at the Riviera with Trump hotels. I mean, that's and like he's sending the 20-pound bombs. He's telling Netanyahu, you have a blank check to do whatever you want. Now, like,
it just came out that Biden didn't, did nothing to. I mean, listen, I think.
Well, I'm talking about Kamala.
I suspect that I suspect that she would not have had the same policies as Trump. But at the same time, I think that it was a massive failure, both on a real human level. Like, it would have, I think, had she articulated anything even remotely close to what I would hope her difference would have been, I think it would have probably had implications in the election. But I think perhaps even more importantly, it would have maybe implicated the behavior of Israel. So, I mean, look, I chose to support Harris because I perceived her as the lesser of two evils. But
yeah, me too. And I think that's an.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. I also agree. Lesser, two evils. Thank you. That's what we've been doing for a very long time. Thank you. I would like to say I am smart. I'm pretty and I'm smart. Fuck off.
I can certainly understand how some people were just so repulsed by what was happening that it made it almost impossible for them to vote for Harris. I think,
I understand.
I actually don't, because that's part of what we do as a people. That's part of what we do as an electorate. We should still push our presidents to look out for us. We should push our senators, our mayors, our congresspeople. We should very regularly be consistently pushing them to do the things that make the country good and that are good for all of the people in it. Like right now, we have people all over the US protesting and being like, we'll get to that one, but like, this isn't what I voted for. Some of these folks, other folks being like, you have to have due process. Like that is a fundamental right that we all have, whether you're a citizen or not. Due process is how a legal system, one of the big parts of a legal system, that you cannot just be charged with the crime without anything, like no jury, no judge, no nothing. This is what we're moving into now. That doesn't make sense to me. So to me, I was like, yeah, I don't like her, but we should be able to at least push her to do the right thing and force her hand. Like just because she got in the office doesn't mean because she would still have to run for another term. Like if she had won, she would still have a whole other term that she would have to run for. And she would have had to have done the things we needed her to do for us to be comfortable and confident in voting for her again.
I understand why they didn't. I totally understand the perspective. Like, I'm so disillusioned with this administration, I can't support Kamala. But at the same time, like a hugely influential political streamer like Hassan, who has a huge influence on people, I think, and who's someone who was who's very vocal about being pro-Palestine. I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility to be like, I'm not voting for Kamala, or I'm not telling you who I voted for. I suspect he voted for Jill Stein personally, but either way, he hasn't said, and he wouldn't endorse her. Now, like, if you're just like a random protester or whatever, and like you're like,
I'm sorry, I don't think he voted for Jill Stein. I don't think anybody smart voted for Jill Stein. Moving on.
So disgusted, I don't want to vote. That's fine. But if you're like a high-level political streamer, and basically you have the capacity to weigh like the lesser of two evils and what that means, I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility to not make that call.
I mean, I certainly.
I'm just going to come in here because I'm an asshole. Here's the thing. I would say that the issue, in my opinion, is in swaying your voter base, using your influence to sway them in a way that the way that the right does. I don't think that that's good, regardless of which side. I don't think that's good. Right, Pi, tell people how to vote. I don't think that's good. I don't think that you should use your considerable influence to do these things, because the issue is that they're not going to learn. Like if you're just waiting for someone to tell you who to vote for, then you have no understanding of the issues. You have no understanding of what's at stake. You have no understanding of what's going on in the world. You're just like waiting for someone to tell you who to vote for. That's not good, regardless of what side you're on. That's bad news. That's bad. That does, in fact, make you what is that word? Sheeple. That makes you a sheeple. You should understand what's happening and why you're voting for who you're voting for. It's good for you to seek out information as to what the policies of all of these people are, so that you can make your choices from there. But it should not be you using your considerable influence to say like, I'm voting for this person and you should too, because I said so, and be just as complicit as the right. Like there's a reason we're literally watching these people try to grift their asses back over into the middle. The same people who were like Trump, Trump, Trump all the way, Trump, Trump, Trump chain, all that crap, just grifting their asses back into the middle. You know, I have a platform. I'm still not going to tell you who I'm voting for. It's none of your business, first of all. But you should know that it would never be Trump. Like, I'm not going to tell you who I voted for, but it would never have been Trump. Under zero circumstances would I have ever voted for Trump.
They have been critical of people who, generally don't vote for the lesser of two evils. But I think, and certainly, in the run up to the 2016 election, I certainly, that was my perspective. But again, what the Biden administration was doing was so horrific that her inability to signal that there would be any change, I think sometimes you have to take this at face value. And I think there would be certainly, definitely other things. You would not be assaulting the government like Trump is. But, I think probably this is the first election in as long as I've been doing this, and I think it's been 5 elections now. I mean, I'm old, that I couldn't really condemn someone from taking that position based upon what we were seeing. I mean, it's
not just some random person. I do, and I'll tell you why. Kamala Harris wanted a ceasefire. She stated that. Trump said, finish them. I mean, let's be honest. Like for someone like Hassan,
said, I want a ceasefire.
I'm not voting
too.
for Biden. I'm not talking about Biden.
No, I understand, but we found out that Biden, in fact, did nothing to bring that about. So,
well, you can talk about Biden. I'm talking about Kamala Harris. What she said.
I mean,
well, she's the vice president. I mean, at the end of the day, she doesn't really do that much, right?
Listen, shut the front door. Why are we having this weird conversation? Part of having a platform is being fucking responsible with it, which I'm sure you wouldn't understand, but being responsible with it. And the responsible thing for Hassan or anybody who has a platform of that size, especially when we're talking about the genocide of a people, the responsible thing to do is to let them know that currently Harris has said nothing to tell people that she has plans to change this, that she has plans to stop this genocide. That's how you are responsible with your platform. How you're irresponsible with it is you omit information, you omit facts, you don't explain to the poor people who don't understand how tariffs work. I'm not going to call them stupid. I'm literally not, because you know what? Learning is a thing that we have to do every single day, right? We all have jobs. We all have jobs that are taking way too much of our time up. Unfortunately, they decided to look that up later. That part was stupid, but not understanding a tariff, but not explaining that to people, not outright using your large ass platform as like, you know, Joe Rogan, explaining these kinds of things to people, explaining how this shit would work. I think that it's weird that you both think that Hassan should be telling people who to vote for, as well as omitting information about the candidates, which makes no sense to me. I have a little empathy because they are partly a product of their environment. And if your access to education was shit, that can be hard, but never too late to use your damn brain for yourself. Exactly. Like even Googling things can be dicey. Like I have to teach my mom like how to Google things sometimes. It's not like it's super simple. For me it is, because I grew up with it. I've been telling her like, just type out the whole sentence, Mom. Just type out the whole sentence that you're thinking of. It'll come up. She's like, oh, it takes time, especially if you're older and you're dealing with technology. But you're arguing weird shit that Hassan should and should be. And again, I'm not a Hassan dick writer because I don't fuck with dick. But like, I think that if you're gonna have a platform of that size and you're going to be responsible with it, the responsible thing is to provide as much information as possible and to not be using that platform to sway people your specific way by omitting information.
Right.
No, but I'm talking about the candidate. Biden, as a president, said he wanted a ceasefire. She, as a candidate, said I want a ceasefire.
Well, do you not? Even if you're like, I don't know how much I trust them. One's like, I want a ceasefire, and the other one is like, finish them.
Well, listen, I think it was certainly obvious to me that Trump was going to be worse. But I think like if you're trying to get the candidate to show some indication of this, I can understand. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I would disagree with it. But
yeah, I get your point too. Like, ultimately, I understand why people wouldn't want to support them because of.
Pi, you didn't know? Hassan is the Pied Piper of the leftists. He comes out with a flute, you know what I mean? It's just like, and we all just hop too.
Of what they've seen, and like that, it feels like it
also shows a tremendous amount of just like electoral malfeasance on her part. I mean, they made an active choice, and I think you could have put that Palestinian lawmaker from Georgia on stage. They made an active choice to signal to whomever they were signaling that they weren't going to do anything. Now, I happen to believe that she would have been better on this than Trump, but they were making an active choice to do that. I mean, it was really electoral malfeasance on her part, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that the Harris campaign grossly underestimated how much people cared. I don't think she would have won anyway. There's that. I don't think she would have won anyway. But I do think that they grossly underestimated how much people cared about about Israel and the genocide. They really underestimated it. And I think that if you look at some of the people who sat home, I still don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. But some of them did so because they're like, if neither one of you are going to tell me the things that I need to like have a better life, then I don't give a shit. The apathetic feeling of the average American is getting worse year over year. And it's been getting worse because, like I've said multiple times, the concerns I had when I was 18, when I was 22, when I was 27, when I was 34, now I'm 45, they are still there. They have not been addressed. So it's very frustrating to keep watching this happen. And we're just like, I'm just like, I don't know how much longer we can keep not addressing issues like healthcare and housing and affordable college, fair wages. I'm 45. I've been waiting for this since I've really started to understand things. These things still have not been addressed. They have not been fixed. So I do, to a degree, understand why a lot of people are getting more and more apathetic and not wanting to take part in the voting system. Because again, that system also needs reform. We do not need an electoral college, in my opinion. I do feel like every single person's vote should count. I think if you felt like your vote actually counted, especially if you're in a deeply red state and you vote blue, if you're in a deeply blue state and you vote red, you want to be able to know that your vote matters, your voice matters. And yes, I know, vote for all of your Senate and your House seats and all of these things and your governors. Yes, I'm aware of that. But a lot of people weren't. But like, I'm aware of that. But like, again, we have all of these issues that if you're my age, you're still watching that like things just haven't gotten fixed. The major things have not been addressed. Fair wages is a major thing. Affordable college is a major thing. Affordable housing is a major thing. Predatory loans are major things. And there's still problems. Yeah, they thought the Kamala brat thing would have swayed young voters. And I don't know why they thought that like that was.
That is so fetch. Gretchen, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Because the thing that I will say about like the MTV Rock the Vote era is like it actually had presidents talking, like president-elects, is that it? Nominees, presidential nominees speaking to the people. It had them actually speaking to them, talking to them about issues. Whether they were going to do it or not wasn't the point.
Well, we're talking about kind of my criticisms of Hassan and how
I
this
don't.
Well, let me show you this.
I don't care about.
I know.
Honestly, I'm like
Let me show you this. This is more.
I honestly.
Yeah, you don't care. I know.
I don't care.
Camp, I love that. No, literally, like, girl, we want the federal minimum wage at $25 and everyone housed. But congrats on trying to be brat, I guess. I'm gonna need to rewind this because I was looking at that comment. But like, yeah, Sam's like, I don't give a fuck about your battle with Hassan. Like, I don't care. Listen, amazing.
In my opinion. But you know, I don't know what the point of litigating this is per se. But
well, we're talking about kind of my criticisms of Hassan and how this.
I don't.
Well, let me show you this.
I don't care.
Yeah,
about,
I know.
Honestly, I'm like,
let me show you this. This is more.
I honestly.
Yeah, you don't care. I know.
I don't care.
And why should you? I don't blame you. We talked about anti-Semitism, and you think that I don't want to put words.
That part pie. Palestinians are being murdered every single day. No one cares about your criticisms of Hassan. Anybody on the left who has been trying to corral Ethan back in is like, you have focused all this vitriol and anger on one person and anyone that he associates with and anyone that like breathes in his general direction. And I do have some sympathy with the fact that it does suck to have the internet turn against you. I watched it happen. I've had friends who it's happened to. It sucks to have the internet turn against you. It sucks to have people who are calling themselves fallen fans. It sucks to have people who used to agree with you no longer agree with you. And there were a couple of ways that you could have dealt with this, right? You could have stopped viciously attacking Hassan and like using him as your laser point and just went back to making the normal, like your goofs and gaffs or like little goofy ass content that you were making before that everybody loved. Like, not me, you know, it's not my cup of tea. That's not what I'm into. You could have just like gone back to that. You chose not to. You kept attacking him and you just wouldn't stop. You just wouldn't let it go. You're like a dog with a bone. And I know it was probably eating you up and it sucks. Everybody's mad at you. A lot of people are mad at you. I don't know how to tell you to like just grow up, I guess, and move on. If you just stop talking about it, people would just leave you alone about it. I think people would just forget. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have like people like me and I don't know how many other people are talking about you right now wouldn't be having these conversations. You know what I mean? But you're still doing it. Like literally here, Sam, in my view, is here to talk to you about what's happening in Israel and Palestine. And again, you are laser focused on like, I disagree with Hassan, which is just wild behavior. I don't know if it's so much that people have short memories as that people have more important things to think about. Like I've had this on my mind for a while where people keep saying that people have short attention spans. And I don't necessarily think that, I mean, that's part of it, right? But I feel like it's a small part of it. I feel like when you're struggling to survive and you're getting up every day and you go to this job that you don't like and you have to spend all these hours there and you're just working and you're trying to put food on the table and you're trying to figure out where your next meal is coming from and you're trying to like figure out how you're going to pay rent. You don't have time to like remember every little thing that's going on anymore. I think they want to keep telling us that everybody has like super short attention spans and aren't paying attention to stuff, but I think that we have too much on our plates. We have been consistently like year over year, decade over decade, overwhelmed to the point where it's hard to care. It's hard to have energy for this kind of shit. Like I have energy for it because this is something that I do. In my Delulu dreams in like 2 years, I'll be elderly on YouTube as a job, Twitch really. and I can stop breaking my already broken body. And that's the goal. They keep them so busy they cannot keep up in a way that is mentally sustainable. Yeah, like I want Ethan to just be able to like let this go and move forward. I don't like him, but I don't like that he has to keep doing this. I want him to be able to move forward. I want him to start being responsible with his platform and not allowing people to brigade other people's channels and brigade other people's lives and like shut their stuff down. I want him to stop trying to get like people banned from platforms. That's all I want. I just want you to like have a nice time. Just enjoy being a dad and a husband and like just let this go. It's like time to stop digging this hole. Like you're losing real life friends out of this. And I don't think that that's good for anybody.
Words in your mouth, right? But you seem to have conveyed that, compared to the destruction and everything happening, the genocide, the loss of life in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, that obviously that's way more important. So let me show you an example of something. And again, I know you don't care about the drama. To me, this isn't drama. This is one of the biggest, most influential streamers spreading something that I think is really dangerous. And you can agree or disagree, but it's a short clip, but I'll show it to you. And you tell me what you think.
This will never happen, but in a totally just world, any kind of, regardless of your background, any kind of fucking Zionist tendency should be treated in the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi. And you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting if they've ever exhibited any sort of like positive feelings about the state of Israel. I'm so serious about this.
Now, by the way, he didn't misspeak. He doubled down on it yesterday. He said, no, I agree. That's what I think. Now, just to recap, he says, anyone that's had positive feelings at any point about the state of Israel is a neo-Nazi that's not fit to be a dog walker. Now, to me, that seems like extremely dangerous, dehumanizing language about what could arguably be 70% of the Jewish diaspora, and certainly probably people you know in your family.
I'll tell you, there's some hyperbole there, but
that's putting it mildly.
I mean, he says Zionism, and I'll tell you what I think is really...
Sorry, I got to correct you. He says Zionism, and then he says, if you had positive feelings about the state of Israel at any point in your life.
I got to tell you, if you look at what's happening right now, and you have positive feelings about Israel...
He said at any point in your life, Sam. Just to be clear about what he said.
Would I have said at any point in his life, someone's life? But I just think this is such a petty, like the idea that we're going to police. Hold on, let me respond. You want me to respond?
I need somebody to hit the "Are you not embarrassed?" before we finish listening to Sam. Somebody hit the "Are you not embarrassed?" Jesus. Oh my God, this is humiliating. I would have stopped here. And like as soon as he just started saying like I do not care.
Are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
Because like I would have stopped. Do you know what I mean? Like as soon as he was like, I don't give a fuck.
That's my opinion!
And Ethan's just like still going. Like there are people that I genuinely do not like that I used to associate with. And I would never be going this hard to take them down. Like because I just don't give a fuck like that. Like I just don't care. They're gonna self-destruct anyway.
On this, like I say, I don't care about this, but if you're gonna force me to respond to it, what Israel is doing right now is so far beyond the idea that someone says any time in your life or not or whatnot. He's talking about Zionism, and frankly, I think it's very difficult for me to understand how someone could have positive feelings at this time. Now, you want to say in the past and what? Okay.
Yeah.
Like I say, I will grant you at any time in your life that is too broad a step away. Let me finish.
Yeah.
But see, you go in and you're making this about anti-Semitism by doing this hopscotch about a poll that people had positive feelings that Jewish people do, and then therefore he is anti-Semitic. And honestly, that type of conflation, I think, is so dangerous and so disingenuous. I mean, I don't want to get too passionate about this, but I'll tell you something. I have had a guy who went to my bar mitzvah, my sister's bar mitzvah, my kid's bar mitzvah, sat at Passover with me 3 or 4 times, call my father and ask him if I'm anti-Semitic. Now, this is just that is just an example, an illustration of conflating when he's clearly talking about Zionism. Was it hyperbole to say any time in life, whatever? The fact of the matter is this conflation is dangerous for Jews. It is a fig leaf and a way of weaponizing anti-Semitism that has enabled Donald Trump to do the shit he's doing, that has enabled the slaughter of thousands upon thousands of children and women and men for that matter. It is not keeping Israelis safe. And this type of conflation, Ethan, is what I find far more irresponsible, frankly, than the idea that he said positive any time. I mean, look, you do a show
Sam,
4 hours a day. He does a show 5 or, as far as I can tell, 15 hours a day. And to focus in on that one tiny clause.
This is not one tiny clip, Sam. Well, you don't know. This is a.
First of all, Daddy came in and was like, absolutely the fuck not. I loved that. Yes. May I have some more? Please, sir. I'm a good girl.
totality of behavior.
But you
and by
wanted
the
to
way,
bring
it's
this up.
easy,
I don't
and I
care
appreciate
about
that you
Ethan.
can hand wave it away and say that it doesn't.
No, I'm not hand waving it away.
Well, you kind of are.
I'm saying
You're
this
saying it doesn't.
conflation.
You're saying
This
actually
conflation.
I'm wrong for caring about it.
No, yes, in fact, I'm saying this conflation is incredibly dangerous. It is disingenuous.
I think it's dangerous
right now,
to ignore what's being described as dehumanizing violent language for American Jews that have nothing to do with the war.
That is a complete mischaracterization of that.
It's not.
Stevie,
He's not fit to be a dog walker.
He never says the word Jews.
He says a neo.
Listen, how many members of Kufi have positive feelings towards Israel? How many millions of members of Kufi, the Christian organization, have positive feelings for Jews? It is clearly not a function of their Judaism. It is not a function of their Judaism, and so it is not
describes most Jews.
No.
Yes, it does, Sam.
It describes most Christian evangelicals too.
It may do them too, but it also describes 73% of Jews.
That is not anti-Semitism. That is
well,
about
I don't know.
a
What do you call it when somebody's discriminating against the vast majority of a racial or religious group, Sam?
I'm sorry. You want to look at evangelical Jews?
I don't care about evangelical people.
Okay, but I'm talking about the way you're constructing this.
I think
you can say the same thing about Christian evangelicals too. It is not anti-Semitism. It is not. It just isn't.
Like taking one example in isolation, which is what we've done here.
Well, you are the one who gave it to me.
Yeah, well, I
Oh, I'm so sorry. When you get slapped down that hard, he's like, you're the one who fucking said this. I didn't even want to talk about this shit, and your goofy ass brought it up any fucking way. Now look, you look like an ass, not me. I turned to Zoom around, you know? Exactly. Don't cherry pick and then bitch when you get your ass beat. This has been his problem, especially when he even came in with the like, oh, I guess it's just bad. I'm stupid to care. It just reminds me so much of when you're arguing for the heteros and for those of you that date men and they come back at you all the time with the, I guess I never do anything right. And you're like, I just asked you to take out the trash and you didn't. And I'm upset because the trash truck has already come by. So like now we have to wait an entire other week. And instead of you just going, you know what, you're right. I'm sorry about that. You know, I'll make a note of it and, you know, so it doesn't happen again. You just go, guess I can't do anything right. And you're like, that was never the argument. That was never the conversation we were having. That is what Ethan keeps doing. He keeps constructing these like weird little things. And I'm loving that he's having this conversation, talking about trying to construct this to tie Jewishness like this. Because I too am getting a good lesson on how Zionism works. Because you hear words, if you're like me, and if you've done some schooling, you finished college, or you just like to learn, and you learn to infer like what a word means, but you don't really fully understand what it means. I'm getting a good lesson, and I'm very happy for it. This is a lesson that I think a lot of people needed to learn today if you didn't learn it. And if you didn't know, and if you already knew, good for you. I'm proud of you.
Example, and in that instance, that is not anti-Semitism.
Well, I disagree.
Conflation. Okay, well, that's our disagreement.
Yeah.
But I think that conflation is incredibly dangerous.
Well, I disagree as well on that.
Jews,
I think
it's dangerous for this society.
I think, frankly, I think it's dangerous to what I perceive as hand waving what's happening here. I know you said you aren't doing that.
I'm not hand waving.
Yeah, no, you're doing the opposite. You're endorsing
decades of thought about this.
So right, sure, but the point is, you're saying that this is not dangerous. How dare you care about this? I think it's dangerous
I'm not saying that at all.
I personally, I mean,
I'm
Jewish people.
Ethan, you just recently even started talking about politics when you had the Leftover podcast. Have a modicum of respect for someone who has been doing this far longer than you ever even thought about the policies of any of these countries, to be honest. Have a modicum of respect for somebody who has spent a very long time doing this. He doesn't. He has zero respect for anyone who disagrees with him. This is the fundamental thing that everyone has been trying to get across to him is like, when someone disagrees with you, you scorched earth the situation and decide that you keep trying to find some magical way to turn it around so that you're the one being attacked and everyone else is wrong. Like at some point in every relationship in your life, platonic or otherwise, if certain things start happening repeatedly and it's the same thing over and over again, where you keep losing friends and it's the same thing over and over again, eventually you have to go, there's something I am doing something. It can't always be all of them. I have to take some responsibility somewhere. Like I have to recognize for me, sometimes I just forget people exist because object permanence is not just for actual objects, right? I don't see you every day. I forget you exist unless you're like, we're in Discords, Marco Polos, even text is not great. Text isn't great because I don't use my phone for texting. Listen, leave me alone. I'm a Discord weirdo now. Like I spend all my time. I message everything through Discord. Like a Marco Polo. I don't like my phone to be used as a phone. Thank you. Stop that. It's a mini computer that I take around with me and look at Reddit while I poop. I can't imagine you not having the sense to go, there's something I'm doing wrong. And like looking inside of yourself, like one of them Disney songs.
Have a collective memory of trauma, Sam, and it starts a certain way, and it starts with dehumanizing language, like saying you're not fit to walk a dog. I mean, what are we doing here? It's irresponsible language.
He's not talking about
Jews. He's talking about 73% of Jewish people.
No, you said that.
No, that's a poll that's readily available.
No, you.
What are you talking about?
He did not. Because we have millions upon millions of members of Kufi. We have millions upon millions in this country of evangelicals who also believe the same thing.
Does your dad have?
You cannot say it's anti-Semitism.
Could you
cannot say it's anti-Semitism if you're also including millions upon millions, far more Christians than Jews.
Would you say that your father, who you mentioned, said something to you, that he's ever in his life had positive feelings about the state of Israel?
I've had positive feelings of Israel.
Whoa. Does your dad have any positive feelings about it now? Not in terms of like I support them, but
I think positive feelings. I went to Israel on.
Okay, good. Then you're a neo-Nazi, not fit to walk a dog. How do you feel about that?
No, that's you saying that.
That's literally what he says. I'll play it again.
No. I think like this will never happen, but in a totally just world, any kind of, regardless of your background, any kind of fucking Zionist tendency should be treated in the.
Before he plays it again, here's the question that I have. First of all, we did see that Sam even said hyperbole. I find it very interesting where Ethan will take people literally, but when he says something fucked up, it's a joke. Keep that in mind.
In the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi, and you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting if they've ever exhibited any sort of like positive feelings about the state of Israel. I'm so serious about this.
Another thing he's doing, by the way, and Hassan he plays around with the term Zionists, right?
You can say that's a wrong thing to say, but he's not talking about Jews. He's talking about people who have exhibited these positive feelings, and that includes millions upon millions of Christians. More Christians.
Okay, well, listen, I don't think they're neo-Nazis, not fit to walk dogs, either. I think it's insane language.
Listen, you don't want to tell me that you have never engaged in hyperbole. You and I both are in this business, and we do that.
Yeah, you're right. I just think that,
It's an inappropriate thing to say. It's an unfair thing to say.
I just think like Arabs that support Israel aren't fit to walk a dog.
It is not anti-Semitism.
Okay. This from a man who just lost an anti-SLAPP lawsuit, okay? Because he insisted on calling someone a pedophile. And we all saw the clip too, right? Like we all used our eyes, however many eyes you might have. Listen, everybody doesn't necessarily have two eyes. Some of y'all are aliens, and that's cool. Can you take us with you to your planet? I'd appreciate it. But we've literally listened to it twice, and he did not say Jews, and nor was it implied that it's Jews. But you just want it to be Jews. You want it to be anti-Semitic, which is different than it actually being anti-Semitic.
Well, we're at an impasse on this one.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, but anyway, another thing he does is he says Zionist tendencies, and he's someone that plays around with Zionism. He calls me a Zionist, and again, I know we're arguing here about semantics of what Hassan said, but I don't think that you could accurately characterize me as that, as it's used colloquially. You don't know, right? But he's saying Zionist tendencies. What does that mean? What's a Zionist tendency?
The shit you just said.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The shit you just said. That's a Zionist tendency. The shit you just said before where you're conflating Jewishness to being pro-Israel. Like you're tying this shit together. And basically if you don't like Israel, then you're anti-Semitic. See, I just learned. So that's the problem.
Talk to him on Friday. You can ask him what a Zionist tendency is. I suppose I would guess. And, like I've looked at polls too, where, people have various different understandings of what Zionism is. But I think it is my guess. And I don't know what he was thinking specifically, but the notion of an ethno-state that engages and allows whatever in the name of Zionism allows for this mass slaughter. I mean, then I think we the three of us agree on that regard.
Yeah, I think we're so another thing is like to take it even further. I mean, Hassan pretty much like openly supports
let's not talk about Hassan. Let's talk about this.
Sure. I mean, what do you want to ask me?
Well, I mean, if you want to ask me about,
well, let me.
I'm not here.
Sam looks so worn out already. 30 minutes into this shit, and he's literally like just. Here's another thing Hassan said. He's like, "Bitch, I don't give a fuck about Hassan." Say Hassan one more time. Sam he just seems so fucking over it. He's like, please stop. I don't give a shit about you bitches arguing. I'm here to help you understand Zionism. That's all. That's it. If you don't want to understand it, let me leave. Stop holding me hostage here for your bitch fight with Hassan. Oh God, I would be so upset. I would be so upset. Literally, I would have just turned my screen off. Because like that's Taurus energy. I would just be like, poof. I couldn't handle it. But yeah, that's my Taurus energy. I would have just like hung up. signs that would have hung the fuck up in the middle of this. For sure, Taurus, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Aries. Those are the signs. So it would be like, that's enough. Boop. Like Sag would have stayed because Sag loves to burn. Sag just loves like continuously burning the fuck out of somebody. They would have just enjoyed laughing and just savage comebacks the whole time.
To explore.
Yeah, I have a list of things.
But if you want to talk about Hamas, I mean, I think, look.
Well, how do you feel about Hamas?
I feel that Hamas, people can perceive it as a liberation organization. We call them terrorists in this country. We call the ANC terrorists.
What do you think about them, Sam?
Listen, I think there are parts, I would imagine, of Hamas that have done good for the people in Gaza, and I think they have done bad things. But I sort of feel, I guess, ultimately probably like Ehud Barak when he said that were I Palestinian and I was living in Gaza, that it would be likely that I would join Hamas. I mean,
Correct.
That's what Ehud Barak said on multiple occasions. And I think that is very, that is an understanding of human nature.
That you're not affording Israelis, by the way, just to point out an inconsistency there.
How so?
Well, you're not. You're like, I refuse to understand human nature and their reaction. It's just evil, and I don't know how to explain it.
Because their reaction is to eliminate an entire group of people. I cannot express to you enough how ridiculous you look. There's nothing else to say.
Are you not ashamed of yourself?
Are you not embarrassed?
This is really embarrassing.
Yeah. He is so embarrassing. It's like, bro, did you study before you did this, or did you just have clips of Hassan?
Feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Oh, stupid, sexy Hassan.
I didn't use the word evil.
Right. I'm inferring. Because I asked you if you think they're evil. You didn't really answer that.
Listen, I don't know what Gazans felt on October 8th, but toward Hamas. But I can tell you that we have there is a long history of terrorist organizations or so-called terrorist organizations like the ANC or the IRA, even the PLO,
now, Sam,
that ultimately become a political organization.
I think the comparison to Hamas to what happened in South Africa is insanely disingenuous, and I personally hate when people do that.
I mean, Mandela didn't think so.
Well, Mandela did think so. He explicitly stated that he avoided committing violence on the citizenry because it would make reunification impossible. That's something he said.
I think you could say that tactically speaking. Listen,
by the way, Sam, in the totality of their campaign,
I swear to God, if you don't let the man finish, what the fuck are you talking about? So first of all, I'm gonna need you. Listen, I'm gonna need to fact check that because I'm like, what are you talking about? Wow. Okay. It's like the people who don't know that by the end, Martin Luther King Jr. was like, hey, it turns out peace isn't the answer. They even forget to tell you that he was assassinated. You know what I mean? They've started backing away from that. And they're like, oh, he died kind of, sort of. Because by the end, he was like, yeah, no. And that's why. When he was fulfilling white purposes and talking about peace and pretending to be nice, it was all wavy graves. And then, and then he turns around and is like, hey, you know what? It turns out this peace shit ain't working out. It's not working out the way I thought it would work out. This is not going the way that I thought it would go. It turns out you can't try to be peaceful to your oppressor because they see it as weakness and then they just keep attacking you. And then anytime you try to strike back, they call you an animal, wild. So genuinely, this is a disaster. The thumbnail that said that this was disastrous. Defense against the violence of the oppressor is always labeled as terrorism. It is. We cannot keep moving in this direction with people like Ethan. It's like, just admit that your wife is Israeli and you have very complicated feelings about it and you actually shouldn't talk about it, and that's okay. It is okay to be like, I have really complicated emotions about this because my children, my wife, and I don't want to talk about this. I said before, people would have left you alone because that makes sense. You are very close to all of this. But instead, this is what we're getting. Like, what are you talking about? Let me see. Nonviolent passive resistance is effective as long as your opposition adheres to the same rules as you do. But if peaceful protest is met with violence, its efficiency is at an end. For me, nonviolence was not a moral principle, but a strategy. There is no moral goodness in using an ineffective weapon. Over and over again, we had used all the nonviolent weapons in our arsenal: speeches, reputations, threats, marches, strikes, stayaways, voluntary imprisonment, all to no avail. for whatever we did was met by an iron hand. A freedom fighter learns the hard way that it is the oppressor who defines the nature of the struggle, and the oppressed is often left no recourse but to use methods that mirror those of the oppressor. At a certain point, one can only fight fire with fire. So Ethan, lifetime for me right now. You were absolutely incorrect with the shit you fucking just said. And I'm not even good at this. Like, you knew he was coming on. You couldn't study? You couldn't get the quote right? Damn, that feels like you're real stupid. And I don't like to call people stupid, but like, damn. Thank you, M, my fabulous editor, and apparently fast-ass researcher. This hurts my brain. Hurts my brain.
Under 200 civilians died. And the people who did kill civilians were almost all held accountable for what they did. That's a difference, Sam.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that...
A significant difference.
Well, it is a significant difference. I mean, I imagine many of those people who committed atrocities on October 7th are dead now. And, you know, so...
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, that's accountability.
But I mean being held accountable by the party that...
The woman was too stunned to speak.
The way Ethan is looking dumber and dumber. Well, no, but like, I mean like a different form of accountability that isn't them already dead.
They're presumably doing the violence on behalf. Like,
but you're saying the entire ANC was held accountable?
No, I'm saying Nelson Mandela's party, if someone killed a civilian, they would hold them accountable. They would charge them. They would disavow their actions.
The ANC did?
Yes.
Well, the IRA was bombing places in England and throughout Ireland. I mean, we have even the Irgun or the Stern Gang when they killed, over 100 villagers.
And also, Ethan just does not understand the casualties of war. There's a reason that phrase exists. There's a literal reason that phrase exists. There's nothing that can really be done when you are violent warfare. Truly, most people who are trying to fight their oppressors do not want children and women and innocent people to die. Unfortunately, that is how war works. And as an American, you should know that, because the millions of people that this country has just like zero problems. I mean, there's a lot of soldiers who don't sleep well at night because they didn't know what they were getting into when they had to go do these things. But that's how war works, unfortunately. It's not a pillow fight.
In 1948, I mean, the history is full of examples of organizations that commit terrorist acts. Now, I will tell you,
people look at South Africa.
I do not condone the killing of civilians, which is why obviously I'm upset about what Israel is doing.
Sure. The part that I don't like about people say, I feel like people sweep for Hamas by saying, like, what do you expect, right? But the truth is that people use South Africa as an example, but what South Africa shows is that you don't need to commit a violent war against civilians to...
But you don't even like black people, so I don't know why you're even talking about South Africa. You don't like black people, you don't like women.
Liberate yourself.
Well, I mean, listen, we had for a year, we had the Great March of Return, where, Sinwar himself was involved in that. There was Palestinians marching on a regular basis over the course of the year. I don't know how many it was, 50 or whatever, that were innocent people who went there, and snipers are shooting down unarmed civilians. And so, time and time again, and over the course of the 20 years that I've been professionally, covering this, my attitude towards...
And then every time there's a ceasefire, who breaks that? We have two choices, and I'm going to tell you, it's not Hamas. So we're only left with one other option.
Israel's willingness to have peace has changed, and my understanding of it has changed. And I can only imagine how more intense that feeling is to be living in a place that is, functionally like, the Warsaw Ghetto, insofar as you don't have access to resources, you have 50% unemployment, the apartheid that is taking place in terms of the West Bank. I mean,
I agree with those characterizations, by the way, Sam. Just to say.
But I can't imagine that my response wouldn't be to pick up a weapon.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
It's not really working out.
Well, none of it's working out, is it?
No, not much at all. Not really much at all.
It's called the greatest attack on Israelis in 75 years. The notion of Zionism and the way that Israel is organized as a society is not protecting Jews.
Well,
it's not protecting Israelis. It's not protecting Jews worldwide. It is, there may have been a time where Zionism had and there were certainly proponents of Zionism in the early 20th century, in the late, perhaps late 19th century, where there was a notion of a multi-ethnic democracy that fell by the wayside. Folks like Hannah Arendt and Einstein, left the Zionist Congress, and what it has evolved into is, I think, a nightmare for everyone involved. And so, I don't know how I would react in that type of commiseration, frankly.
Well, can I ask you?
But again, Ehud Barak said that he would pick up a weapon were he one of them. And
That's fine.
he's far closer to the conflict than I am.
I'm not saying I don't understand why people pick up weapons.
You are.
So let me ask you this: what do you think about October 7th attack?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was horrific.
Mm-hmm. And this was like a military action by Hamas to what end?
I mean, I suspect. I mean, I don't know what the strategy was. I mean, they attacked 2 military bases. I don't know if they were aware of that the dance.
The Nova rave.
Yeah, I don't know if they knew that rave was happening. I suspect it was to derail the Abraham Accords, which were going to leave the Palestinians out of the equation, where an authoritarian.
You leave out that they attacked Kibbutzim, by the way.
No, yes, of course they did. But I'm saying that they. I don't know what the strategy was. On
okay, so what do you think? Like, would you expect the response of Israel would be to that?
I had no doubt on that day that Israel was going to respond.
Ethan, no one's denying that it was awful. The problem is you're trying so hard to go for like Israel deserves to win because I want them to, because I personally, am being attacked and I don't like it. So I'm going to do this whole thing because again, war is not friendly. It's not a fucking pillow fight. Fighting for and attempting to gain your freedom and be treated as a human being and like seen as an entire human being, not like the dirt on someone's shoe. It's not going to be peaceful. It's not going to be pretty. You're not going to be able to plan these around every little thing that people are doing. That is the unfortunate thing about war. That's why people don't like war, because there's too many casualties of people who don't want anything to do with it, including the people who are fighting said war. These wars are so often between like 2 fucking dictators up here that do not give a fuck about us being cannon fodder, all their people being cannon fodder as they fight this war. Nobody is saying that October 7th was fantastic and awesome and great. Nobody feels like that. At least I feel like anybody that I know doesn't feel like, oh, that was great. That was fantastic. Wonderful. Glad they did that. But we're also saying we do understand why this took place. Like if somebody slapped you, correct? And you went on about your day, you keep spending this time thinking about how they slapped you. It's only a matter of time before you go slap them back. Now, were you thinking about the fact that you were like slapping them at, a friend's wedding? When you did it, no, you were finally ready to get your lick back, literally. And so you did. You didn't necessarily consider the environment. The entire time, they keep telling everybody how they slapped you. And you have to keep dealing with this over and over and over again. And people keep laughing at it. And finally, you like let it out. I'm not saying that war is obviously the same. I'm just trying to give an example that you could actually understand. No one's condoning either one of the actions, but you can't understand it, right? Okay, probably not. Because you don't care about the people, you just care about people thinking you're right.
Yeah, right. It was going to be horrific. We all knew.
Yes, but I think I think the lack of proportionality was just beyond, frankly. And I was aware that this was going to be a horror show, but I don't think I had the level of awareness of what they would do to go in and literally level it, destroy what is it, 80-90% of the structures in Palestine. That they would use.
Well, Hamas did know that because that's why they attacked. Food as a weapon. I'm more interested in like the justification for what they're doing.
Probably took hostages with the idea that they would be able to negotiate.
I understand why they took hostages. I don't understand why they took children and elderly.
I believe that they probably. I mean, this is all conjecture on my part. That they would be able to trade them as a way to inhibit Israel's doing what they're doing. And I don't know if they could have even imagined that. I'm not going to. I'm not going to endorse Hamas's strategy here.
Well, I'm just trying to flesh it out here because this is what I'm getting to is Hamas. I think they knew that this was the reaction that would happen.
I can't imagine that there would be this level of destruction.
I mean, that's why they hate Israel. I don't think they underestimate how violent the IDF can be. You know what I mean? That's why they attacked.
I certainly underestimated that they would go this far. Use
I didn't think they'd go this far, but
bomb hospitals and shoot EMTs and have rules of engagement like this. I mean, I think Hamas is certainly up to criticism for their strategy here.
If that's an understatement.
Well, I mean, if that's the
well, I mean, they're a terrorist organization that intentionally antagonized like the IDF to come mass slaughter their civilians.
I think that if they overestimated whether Israel cared about the hostages, without a doubt. I mean, there's I don't know that there would be anybody who would make a case that this was their plan have Israel respond this way. That's absurd.
Well, and the same is true of like, I guess Israelis feel the same way. Like it was totally unprecedented. You know what happened. So maybe they didn't think that their mission would be as successful as it was. On the other hand,
I have no doubt that they did not think that they would that they would have been able to overrun that. I mean, I think we were told that the technology of Israel's defense, et cetera, was perfect and something we should emulate in this country. I mean, Trump was all talking about that. So I have no doubt that Hamas overestimated
overestimated the IDF. Yeah, I got
what they would be able to, what kind of destruction they would wreak, and they underestimated the violence that Israel would perpetrate on Gaza.
Correct.
I don't know that anyone could have imagined that Israel would have engaged in this level of destruction and immiseration and bombing churches and bombing hospitals and blowing up universities and destroying the infrastructure. I mean, it's almost beyond belief.
So one thing that when I was talking to Hassan, and I'm just going to talk about his point. This is about him personally. When I asked him, because this is obviously the $1 million question, right? By the way, just there's not one public bomb shelter in Gaza.
There's not one public bomb shelter in Gaza.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I just think that's interesting. It's pretty fucked up, don't you think?
What?
Do I think it's fucked up?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I understand the point. Like,
well, I mean,
do you think anything would be standing anymore?
Well, bomb shelters are underground. I mean, they would definitely be a lot safer.
I've seen what happened to tunnels under hospitals.
Your statement is, so you say there were tunnels under hospitals?
Israel built the ones under the first one that they went into.
I see what this dumbass is trying to get at. He's like, why would they attack if they don't have any bomb shelters? He's doing that like stupid, smug, circular bullshit. Bro, please. You already actually got to that point a while back when you were talking about that Hamas underestimated how violently Israel would retaliate. And they also underestimated that Israel would even care to get their hostages back. And that's all conjecture, by the way. And now you're just, okay. All right. This is dumb. You should not have done this. Tomorrow's going to be interesting, I think.
Built it when they were occupying Gaza.
Are you right? That's true of that one. I mean, they have a vast tunnel network, obviously, as everybody knows. But I don't care. I don't want to get into the weeds on this. The $1 million question is like, what can we do? Now, it's obviously insanely difficult
as Americans,
to say.
I think we can stop aid immediately. I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen.
I'm in favor of that, by the way.
Okay, I mean, good.
I mean, I think
we should call for all aid to be ceased, and I think we should stop protecting them in the
What
UN.
should have Israel done on October 8th? I guess, like, what would have been an appropriate response for their government?
I mean,
without saying not this.
What should they have done on October 8th? I mean, I think that there is they're hitting strategic sites to attempt to take out leadership. They should have, but let's not,
the leadership was underground.
Yeah, to look at that moment in history, like maybe it was.
I disagree because they had to do something.
Maybe in that moment, they had to go in and bomb or whatever they
actually, kind of that's part of the problem with literally all of these wars. Yeah, the way in which they very quickly want to just attack and not think. That's the actual problem. Instead of like considering all of the options and like really thinking about what all this shit means, small-dicked men just fire back. It's wild. Nobody ever like actually goes like, hey, you think maybe we should consider some things before we just like wild the fuck out? It's overwhelmingly unpopular in the US right now. Israel is. And supporting Israel. You're fighting the wrong battle, literally.
They do. I think that any action that they would have taken at that point, frankly, was a function of literally decades of oppressing people and attempting to bring this to an eventuality.
Right.
I mean, this was.
And so, what should they have done?
Ages ago. Well, I mean,
you're avoiding. Yeah.
Okay, I think what they should have done is begun empowering Palestinians in the West Bank. They should have done
this. This is my
same.
favorite answer,
Okay.
Sam. You're saying that this is what Hassan told me. They should disband their government and lift the borders in response to the worst terrorist attack that's ever happened.
I think honestly, when you see that your policies have failed, but I don't think
you
it's a fair
actually don't believe
agenda.
that that's a real thing, though. I'm interested in having like a real conversation. You can't like live in a fairy tale land where, in response to the worst military terrorist attack of all time.
No, you can't say you're interested in having a real conversation when the conversation is really about you being right. Do you understand? Like, there's a difference. And I know this as a tourist who does this quite regularly when I don't fucking want to concede my point. And so sometimes I'll just keep fucking going because I want to be right. Especially and specifically if my system's deregulated. I will keep going because I just want to be right. Is it cool? No. Is it very irritating to people who are having to deal with me when I'm doing it? Yes. But when you want to be right so bad that you just don't really give a fuck about anything else other than you, your feelings, and being right, this is just wild. This is wild.
Israel, who's already, as you state, like genocidal and racist and all these terrible things, is going to lift their borders and disband their government.
Wait a second. You're asking me what they should have done, and that's different.
No, in a realistic way, not in a fairy tale, Sam.
Well, listen, there is no realistic thing.
It's impossible. No one can be this banana-brained.
Agenda has been, it has been quite clear. Their agenda has been, since Ariel Sharon walked on the Temple Mount and tried to scuttle peace talks, the agenda since the assassination of Rabin by arch-Zionists in Israel, the agenda has been to bring about this moment. There is no doubt about it. The annihilation of the Palestinian people has been an agenda in Israel for far too long. So from the perspective, it's anything I say is fantastical relative to what they would actually do. Anything.
There's nothing they could have done that because of the situation, anything they would have done would have been.
There was no plan that on this day they were going to do this. But if you go back 10 or 15 years ago and look into Bibi Netanyahu's brain, the idea that this is ultimately going to happen was definitely the agenda.
What, in terms of like attacking Gaza or inciting an attack?
I would imagine both, frankly. But to find a way to eliminate the Palestinians, this has been the agenda of at one time, what I think was a smaller segment of the Israeli.
Here's the thing. It was only because this happened that I connected my college roommate and friend and understood in these past couple of years when she was saying that she went to an American school in Lebanon and that like things were being bombed. It's only recently that I connected these things because I didn't ask at the time. I was just like, damn, that sucks. I don't know how, she's like, yeah, she was like, chill about it. I don't like to make people uncomfortable. And she's super nice. And I was actually I think at that point, I was more focused on the fact that like we had two white roommates and two of them were convinced that she was a princess and were trying to like look through her shit. So I had to like guard her room, because they were being fucking weird. And I told her about it because y'all, that's weird behavior. So I was like more focused on that. But I only recently had to like connect those things and be like, oh shit, like that's how long this has been going on, right? Like learning is one of those things where sometimes for me, I just have to like I'll connect all these little dots that have happened in my real life to understand what's going on.
Body politic, and I think has increasingly become an even larger portion of the Israeli politic. So, I mean, anything I say in terms of should is fantastical. Anything.
So, yeah, okay. I mean, so this is like I understand where you're coming from, right? Like
there was an opportunity for a ceasefire that was called in November, in December. They could have held a ceasefire at any point, and the amount of killing would have been far less. They could have done that. They could have ended it after a week.
I mean, Hamas could have ended the war anytime, too.
How could have Hamas ended the war?
By releasing the hostages?
No, listen. Israel has said time and time again that the release of the hostages is not going to end their assault on Gaza. They have said this over
I don't believe
and
that's,
over and over.
I haven't seen those statements. I've seen the opposite.
Oh,
I believe that.
Jesus. He's Hillary's emailing this. If y'all don't know, that's what I've started calling it, Hillary's emails. Every time people just say shit that doesn't make any, and when you hit them with facts, they just go Hillary's emails. Hillary's emailing this. Yes, Hamas has tried multiple times. And Israel was like, nah, it's cool. We're just content to keep bombing you into oblivion.
No, I haven't. I'll review them. I mean, it depends when it depends when they were made too, right? Like, is it what's in response to?
At any time they could have done that.
What has Hamas done to end the war?
Hamas offered
what have
the
they done to end the
hostages
war?
early on to say Hamas offered all the hostages in agreement in response to Israel not coming into Gaza. I mean, there's just to defend Israel's actions
that didn't happen
as being inevitable. Like, when do you think they should have ended it? When do you think they should have ended it?
So who have ended what?
You've asked me the question, what should have Israel done? You tell me what they should have done. Do you think what they've done is right?
Well, I've clearly stated no, Sam.
Okay, so tell me what they should have done.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously,
you keep saying no, but you keep going like, but nuh-uh, but what about Hamas? But what about them? But what about them? But how come? Jesus, this is so inappropriate. I feel like you should just not like, and I'm saying as someone who's like not super good at doing political conversations, I think that you should stop.
Hindsight is a beautiful thing, but in my opinion, like you said, I think some more specific strikes. I think more moving slowly, because as you kind of pointed out but didn't really acknowledge.
When do you think they should have ended?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the leadership is obviously underground. So it's going to be a long mission of trying to get them. It's going to be a difficult mission. But I think militarily, they probably have some obligation to their citizenry, at the very least, to like take out but we're ignoring the fact that missiles are being shot into Israel nonstop. And I know you're going to say, Iron Dome stops most of them, which is true. But at the same time, I mean, a country needs to respond to that. They can't just allow missiles to be shot in.
Tell me the non-fantastical version of what they should have done. Should it have been 2 weeks, 3 weeks? How many Hamas leaders, how many members of Hamas should they have killed before they leave? Because we know that Blinken said on his way out that virtually every Hamas member of Hamas that they've killed has probably been replaced by someone who's lost a family member or an entire family or whatnot. So you tell me, Ethan, if you're the one with the sensical perspective on this, and mine is fantastical, what should they have done that would have been appropriate in your mind?
Yeah. So besides like special operations and stuff, I think it would have been a good idea to, I think there's a space where they could like try to find peace partners in Gaza before destroying the whole thing. Like, obviously they approached it completely wrong, right? But there are ways, I think, that could have happened that are realistic, like trying to forge some kind of peace partner, some kind of alliance, some kind of international coalition.
People were marching in the Great March of Return week after week after week.
Sam, was there Hamas activity at the Great March?
Sinwar was marching. Sinwar was marching with them.
Were people attacking the border wall?
During the Great March of Return, the first dozens of these things before the snipers? No, they weren't. So there were the people for peace.
There was Hamas activity. They were attacking the fence. They were like trying to cross.
I think it's time for you to just admit that you want to be right. I think you just need to say, I want to be right. I don't care what you say. Just stop Hillary's emailing. Stop Hunter Biden's laptoping. Just say you want to be right and you don't care about anything else. And then we'll all be good. We'll all just everybody leave you alone, because we'll just realize like it doesn't matter now. Do you need like an AI Hassan that's like, oh, you're right, and then we can just all move on? Again, a fundamental misunderstanding of oppression, of war, of terrorism. You literally don't understand how any of this works at all. But I'm sure you have a house there.
It's the border.
Stolen.
But not militants. Militants were trying to cross the border.
You're telling me that in the first dozen of these marches, there were people attacking the fence?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I think that there's a way for Israel to try. I think they can obviously pursue peace. The way that they're doing it is impossible, right? Like, it's fucked up, it's insane, it's genocidal, it's horrific.
They're not pursuing peace.
I'm not saying. I'm saying the opposite,
I don't
Sam.
think Israel is.
Well, you asked me what should they have done. I mean, obviously
Yes.
they're not pursuing peace. I agree with you. Like, quite the opposite. That's not what they're doing. But I'm saying there could have been a path, although it's not. I think, unfortunately, I think their response was inevitable based on everything that happened.
You think it was inevitable that they would kill these many people and they would use food supplies as a weapon, that they would have leveled hospitals and universities and 80-90% of the homes? I mean, how
I don't know to what extent, but like a huge response was definitely inevitable. I'm not justifying it, Sam. You asked me a question. I'm answering it. You're putting this on me like I'm saying.
No, I'm just saying inevitability. I wonder what you must think of an Israeli body politic where this level of atrocity is inevitable.
Well, you described your and Hamas's understanding of the IDF. I wouldn't say that. I can't say to what extent, but you agree that a huge response was inevitable.
Listen, I believe a response that was inevitable by Israel, and that's because I have a much more theoretically jaded view of that country and their agenda, I think, than you.
And I also understand how war works.
But to expect that what they've done is inevitable.
Sam,
I just wonder what it is that you think is in that body politic. Listen, I don't think it's inevitable, just to use an example in this country. I don't think that it's inevitable that we are going to be deporting and disappearing immigrants in this country. I think it's possible, but my perspective on America is still too optimistic to think that's inevitable. I can't even imagine what I would think would be inevitable. And I think listen, our invasion of Iraq and the complete lack of caring and the only thing that would even mitigate that is that, there were no images coming out of Iraq, or very few. And certainly I was exposing them more than the American population writ large. But to perceive what we did in Iraq as inevitable,
it's a different situation. That's completely, I mean, that was completely unpredictable. But we kind of touched on it. And again, to what end this even matters is it doesn't ultimately. But Hamas knew that they were going to bomb the fuck out of Gaza.
Listen, I would imagine Hamas thought there was going to be a response, but they wouldn't have taken hostages if they thought that they couldn't use those hostages.
Well, of course they thought they could. I don't deny that.
Yeah, that's the point of hostages. It's leverage. I guess you would say, in a non-fantastical, realistic world in which you're looking at it, that they thought the response would have been, what are your demands? You have our hostages, what are your demands? And then they would have had conversations and started fixing stuff, right? Would be the assumption that they would have had, like that's why they would have had the hostages, thinking we have leverage, they'll come to the table, they'll speak, we can all work this out together. They will treat us like humans moving forward, right? Yet instead, everything is decimated. And it just, another thing you should really consider is that like all Palestinian people aren't there. They're not all there. They're never going to eradicate them. My concern that you're not really getting, Ethan, is like, how far do they take this? That's why I said, like, hey, everybody who is Palestinian they don't all live there. They don't all live in Palestine. So how far do you think that Israel is going to take this? And coincidentally, how far do you think America is going to go to help back them to do this? This is why these kinds of things just can't keep happening, and why we cannot let this continue, because it will not stop here. That's not how these kinds of things go. History has dictated that to us.
Of deterring Israel from entering. And that was a miscalculation on their part. They presumed that Israel was more interested in those hostages, I think, than they had assumed.
Well, and that's part of what a lot of the civil
Oh my
unrest
God,
in Israel
not
is
him
about, is that a
resting.
lot of people do care about the hostages and think that the government needs to stop the war and focus on getting the hostages back and not killing innocent civilians. So that
I wonder about that last part, but
Which part?
The part about the killing of innocent civilians. I mean, I think that
I said that's what they're doing.
No. I'm saying I wonder if the Israeli body politic.
Oh, you think the Israelis want civilians to die?
Correct, they do.
I think the Israelis. I mean, obviously not all Israelis, but I think that the
war machine
enough
does.
of Israelis to maintain this government believe that Palestinians in Gaza, that their lives have no value, that they are all future enemies, that they that they all represent a threat to Israel, and I think that's. I think that's a twisted perspective.
Just so you know, there were massive demonstrations in Israel, tens of thousands of people in a country that's relatively small. So I think characterizing like the majority of the public as wanting to kill civilians is a little sick, personally. But it's. I guess you can say whatever you want.
I'm basing this on conversations with Israeli reporters that does not seem to be in Israel a majority, at the very least, of people who are concerned about the fate of the Palestinians in Gaza. Certainly, they want hostages, and again, not all Israelis. But look, I can make analogous assessments of the United States at various times about things that reflect poorly on our national body politic as well. But the proof is in the pudding.
Can I tell you something? 300,000 protesters in Tel Aviv, 200,000 in the rest of the country. That's 500,000 people out in the street protesting the government of a country that has maybe 6 million or 5 million in the.
Are you talking about the protests about the judiciary?
I'm talking about to release the hostages.
Okay, to release the hostages.
Yeah. To stop,
well,
to ceasefire, Sam. That's what that means.
That's not the no.
They were.
Wait, that's not the same thing. If they're just protesting because they want the hostages, that is not the same thing as them wanting a ceasefire. Which one is it? Because once I started understanding like that people were going and just taking homes, disgusted. I was like, that colonizer shit just be running too deep in some of y'all.
They were calling for a ceasefire, or they were calling for a release of the hostages?
Well, what's the point of telling Hamas to release the hostages? Yeah, of course it's a ceasefire, Sam.
Well, but Israel has, and I know.
Why does he say that? Like, of course it's this. So far, we've already clocked you at least once, just saying shit.
But deal with this.
I don't have much time.
Israel.
Wait. Let's look this up and see how many times the Israeli government has said return of the hostages will not end.
Sam, I'm responding to you saying the majority of Israelis want civilians to die. 500,000 people came to the street for a ceasefire of a country of 5 million, Sam. That's 10%.
Israel just broke the latest ceasefire. Okay, where is the political response from the Israeli people? I mean, the idea that Gazans can be held responsible for an election that happened 18 years ago.
Sam, you said the majority of Israelis want civilians to die.
It's becoming obvious that they do because they're not doing anything. There's polls. There have been multiple different interviews that have shown that they do not have, Palestinians are not humans to them. I don't know what else you're belaboring a point because you want to be right, and it's very embarrassing. It's humiliating, actually. You're belaboring a point because you want to beat Hassan. Like, that's it. That's all you care about. You care about you. this is why I hate when men debate anyway, but I feel like you can just have a conversation. If you wanted to have a conversation and understand something, that's one thing, but that's not what you wanted to do. You really wanted Sam to agree with you, and it's not working out. And you're looking dumber and dumber as time goes on. Like, I think it's time that you hang up your political hat. Just put it away. Just put it away. Show us videos of cats double fisting their food with their paws. Shit's wild. I don't know if you've seen it before, but like, cat even looks around. It's all like, hey, cool, nobody's looking. Both paws, Ethan, both paws. Just shoves the food in its face like a person. Go back to doing that instead of whatever this is. Just it's enough. Oh my God. Just go do things that are fun. You know what I mean? Go outside, play with your kids, enjoy your life, de-stress. Summer's on the way. You could wear jorts, I guess, and a Hawaiian shirt and like do stuff. And then you can go on internet and make fun of those like fake cringy people. They're doing fake cringe.
The majority of Israelis do not have a problem with what's going on in Gaza.
I think that unfortunately might be true to the extent that they've gotten.
Well, then we agree.
They've gotten much more radical. Unfortunately, tragically, everybody's been a lot more radicalized since October 7th, and that's tragic. I agree. I think people in Israel are jaded and they are cynical and they don't care, like you said, and I think it's tragic.
Yes, well, that's what my intention was. I mean, I'm looking at something from May.
I wouldn't say most of them want to kill civilians, though.
Well, I think that they don't.
And I wouldn't say that there isn't a sizable portion.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that they don't see them as civilians. So I'm going to leave that where it is. But, you know, if you don't see someone as a person, like if you kill a bunch of ants and you're just like, they're just ants, like you don't really consider that they're alive. So you just like continuously like just kill them. It doesn't matter to you because to you, they're just ants. They don't have a life. So like you don't consider them anything. They're just like bugs that bother you. So like I just need him to recognize that. You're using the word civilians, but Israelis don't see Palestinians as humans, and therefore to them there are no civilians there.
Of Israeli citizenry that want a ceasefire, when 500,000 people, Sam, marched out on the street of a country of 5 million for a ceasefire.
This Pew research, 39% say Israel's military response against Hamas and Gaza has been about right. 34% say not gone far enough.
Sure.
Now, granted, that was in May of this past year, so maybe that's changed. I would hope. But you know, that's all the most recent data I have.
Yeah, no, I know that the sentiment
40% last year said that Israelis should govern the Gaza Strip.
I know that people.
I don't know what's left now.
Yeah, I agree. It's tragic what's happened, because I agree with you that they become jaded and they've become very comfortable with the idea of violence happening there in general, right? And I think it sucks. I think it sucks is an understatement.
But like, I just need you to understand that me finding out and like connecting these dots from my college friend coming from Lebanon, right? That was 1999, 1999. Just you know, just like food for thought.
I think it's tragic, and like I don't know what. Truthfully, the situation is so fucked up that, and like, it just feels hopeless sometimes. But
it certainly does. But in the meantime, you know, in this country, we may not have the opportunity for a while, but we should.
That was like the truest thing he said. It feels hopeless. And I think that if he had just led with that from jump, you don't have to change your mind. You know what I mean? Ethan, you can still hold like whatever conflicting and confusing beliefs that you have right now. Because again, your wife is Israeli, so are your children. So like that changes things. You don't have to change your mind on that. You could literally just say what you said there, which is it sucks and it feels hopeless. And then just stop talking about it. You know what I mean? It's like super simple. Instead, you like had fucking Mudahar on. You're getting weirder. Like, stop it. Just like let it. Sometimes you got to let things go.
Should cease all aid to Israel. We should stop protecting them in the UN. We should stop trying to pressure the ICJ and the ICC. And that's, you know.
Well, incidentally, I agree with all those things too. I think that that's the most we can do as a country to try to stop the war, and it's something that we should be doing. You know, and I think Kamala Harris would have been a lot more likely to do something on that front. But you know.
But Hassan did it. Stupid, sexy Hassan.
We can't know, and that's the great thing.
Well, listen, I appreciate the time. I gotta go because I'm supposed to have dinner.
Stupid, sexy Hassan. Because I know he's gonna recap the debate, and I honestly don't give a fuck. Here's why. So Harris wouldn't have done anything better without pressure. That's the reality. Harris would not have done anything without extreme pressure from us. And in fact, I will say that I think that she would have tried to hide the fact that they were still aiding Israel because she would know that was an issue. I think she would have tried to find ways to hide it and try to pretend like we're just trying to like make peace, meanwhile helping assist in the genocide of a people. So with that being said, I don't think she would have been any better in that regard. When it comes to Israel and Palestine, Israel is just, America Junior. That's what we have. If they further all of our interests, and that's why we back them. But in terms of everything else, I'm pretty sure we would not be in a ridiculous trade war with China, collapsing the global economy. They keep bringing up the ceasefire because they know it won't happen. It's like that's the point. They're like, oh yeah, ceasefire, and then they just like break it every single time. What have we learned from this? Sometimes people just think it's more important to be right and to care about their feelings and how people view them than they do about learning anything new. And it just felt like that's what Ethan wanted to do. He didn't really care about learning anything new. He didn't want to use any actual real facts, real information. What he wanted to do was be right. What he wants to do is stick it to Hassan. And apparently today is Thursday. Tomorrow is their debate, 5-2. Sam did in fact have a ton of patience because I would have hung up on his ass a long time ago because I don't have that kind of patience. It's just wild to me how we got here. How did we get to this place where someone will just like keep stubbornly arguing even though they're not correct? Instead of just saying like, this is really complicated. I have complicated feelings about this because of my ties, not only to Israel, like my emotional feelings to Israel, but also because of my familial ties. It does make it a little harder for me. And not just my familial ties, but what my wife did for Israel. So like, it's just more difficult for me to denounce it because in some ways I would have to be denouncing her. And obviously I don't really want to do that because that's like fucking really weird. I just think that Ethan has been rejected twice at this point, back to back, and he just like was pissed off about it. And those rejections hurt his feelings and his audience. I'm speaking of Trisha Paytas and Hassan. He's been rejected twice now, and he used to be the one who said who did and didn't make it on the platform. He used to be the one who could crush somebody if they didn't agree. And now it's people just don't feel that way about him anymore. Trisha's podcast is doing super well. She went on freaking Broadway. Like, come on. And Hassan's still doing really well, regardless of Ethan's attempts to try to get him banned. As are other brown people, Arab creators, whom he also tries to get banned. They're all still continuing to do well. And I think that Ethan is upset that if he's mad at you, the world should be mad at you. And that's just a sad way to live, man. You're just gonna kind of have to find hobbies, find things, be fun, enjoy life. And like, that is it. That is all.
Peace. Peace. I hate the word.
Subscribe if you want to.
As I hate hell, all Montagues.
Don't if you don't want to. Until next time, I am so pretty and so are you.
And thee.